Hi, I learn something new every day. Yesterday, or it was the day before, a woman shared a tweet that when women have sex, they release oxytocin, which bonds them to their partner who they're having sex with. And the more men that they have sex with, the less amount of oxytocin is produced, thus the less bonding that comes with sex. So if they've had sex with multiple partners before marriage, they'll have a very hard time, if not impossible time, bonding to their husbands. God told us to flee fornication because it's a sin against our own body. And He commands us for many good reasons, and I'm finding out more reasons all the time as I grow older. The blessings of saving yourself for one man. My mom told me when I was young that I wanted to be able to stand in front of the man I was going to marry and tell him I was going to save myself for him. This made sense to me from a young age. I wanted a godly man. I wanted a solid marriage. I wanted a good marriage. And so I did that. I saved myself for marriage. And I've been married over 42 years. I'm very bonded to my husband. Even when we were going through hard times, I was very bonded to him. I never wanted to have sex with anyone else. I've never had sex with anyone else. I don't want to have sex with anybody else. And he feels the same way about me too, by the way. So being virgins at marriage is a wonderful blessing. Women, teach your daughters this. If you weren't, God is a God of forgiveness, and He makes all things new. Doesn't mean you won't suffer consequences of your sins, but you can still have a good, strong marriage. But teach your daughters from your mistakes and how it isn't good. There's comparing, there's diseases, there's abortion, so many things that come from fornication. So teach your daughters and your sons to be virgins until marriage, because God's blessings are abundant. His ways are perfect. We must believe this. And as I grow older, I see it more and more. All the different ways that God's ways are such blessings, and they are good for us. He's our creator. He wants the good for us. It's not for evil. Yeah, sex before marriage might sound wonderful and fun and romantic, but it's not. It just leads to devastation. Hollywood wants to make us think that it's so good. Dating and fornication set young women up for divorce. Set your children up for a good, solid lifetime marriage. Such a huge blessing. I know. Being married over 42 years, it's a huge blessing. Bye-bye.
Hey, my More Brothers, back again. And this is something that I wanted to talk about for a while because, well, something I've noticed and I've said really for almost 30 years now. Good Lord, I'm getting old. I am old. It's not even getting. I tell my brother that all the time. After 50, you're not getting old. You're old. You just get older. But be that as it may, this TikTok kind of jumped up at me because she's saying the exact same thing I've been saying, that body count does matter. And I say no more than 4, but research that Wolfinger did, according to Wolfinger, is actually more than 2. And the study she references is from a 2016 blog, Medical Daily, actually written by a woman, Lizette Borelli. First comes love, then comes marriage. Women with 2 or more premarital sex partners face higher divorce rates. Growing up, we all heard the classic playground song, first come love, then comes marriage, then comes baby in a baby carriage. Okay, from a young age, we received direct and not so direct messages that taught us about the natural order of boy-girl relationships that lead up to saving ourselves for sex within marriage. and in anticipation of a baby. However, the social norms have changed throughout the decades as premarital sex has become more common, with millennials having sex outside of serious relationships. That's true. One, we have more sex partners because there's no taboo on it. And secondly, we get married later. 1960, the average age for a man to get married was about 21 years old. And the average age for a woman to get married was about 19. Now it's 30, 31. I think it's 30, 31 for a man. It's like 29 for a woman. So we have shifted 10 years for a whole host of reasons. I've done videos on that, man, going back 8 years. I did that on a MGTOW channel about that. The study published in the Institute for Family Studies blog found a surprising trend. Women with exactly 2 premarital partners have consistently higher divorce rates than women with 3 to 9 sex partners. In short, if you're going to have comparisons to your future husbands, it's best to have more than one. Okay. I said Wolfinger looked at the 5-year divorce rate for over 10,000 women and took into consideration how many sexual partners the women reported having prior to the marriage. Then he divided them into the three most recent waves of the National Survey of Family Growth based on the decade in which marriage occurred, collected in 2002, 2006 to 2010, and 2011 to 2013. Unsurprisingly, young women who wed in recent years have far more sexual experience prior to marriage than their counterparts from previous decades. Wolfinger suggests this is because premarital sex has become more acceptable. According to the Kinsey Institute, by the age 21, 85% of men and 81% of women in the U.S. have had intercourse, comparing that to the average age of first marriage, 27 for women and 29 for men. That was in 2016. Most people are having sex before marriage, but they're also marrying later. And here's the rub. In the 1970s, women were 4 times as likely to marry as virgins, 21%, compared to the 2010s, 5%. Until 2010s, 5%. Oh, where have all the virgins gone? According to Wolfinger's findings, there has been a notable decline in the percentage of women who get married only having had one sex partner. Over half of new brides were virgins or had only one sex partner in the late 1980s. This was true of just 28% of women by the 2010s. Wolfinger found a strong correlation among the 3 cohorts. Women who were married as virgins had the lowest divorce rates by far. In the 1980s, 11% of virgin marriages on the woman's part ended in divorce within 5 years. This decreased to 8% in the 1990s and fell again to 6% in the 2000s. Similarly, women with the second lowest 5-year divorce rates are those who only had one partner prior to marriage. During the 1980s and 1990s, the highest 5-year divorce rates were seen with women who had 2 partners. This was higher than in the 1980s when these women had divorce rates of 28%. Surprisingly, this is substantially higher than those who had 10 or more premarital sex partners, with a rate of 18%, so you might as well marry a hoe. However, in the 2000s, this took a surprising turn. Women with 10 or more premarital sex partners had the highest 5-year divorce rates among those marrying than in that decade at 33%. So basically, what is the study shows that women that had only 2 lifetime sex partners, basically, have the happiest marriage and have the best success in marriage, which makes sense. And anything over 2 partners in premarital sex, your success rates goes down. Now, it's questionable that once you get past 2, whether, can you go all the way to whoredom or what, It didn't quite break all that down because in this study it flip-flops. But, in the 1980s and 1990s, basically, a lifetime partner rate of women normally was around 3 or 4. So 2, 3 or 4 premarital sex partners was a lot. So you were already in hoe category. So by the time you get past 4 or 5, past 4, you're already in hoe category in the 1980s or the 1990s. And so by the time you get to 10, over 10, you're way out of the league. So, but those kind of women were kind of rare back then. So we have to kind of allow for that, but that is kind of funny. But what they're saying is anything over two, what he's saying, anything over two starts to put your marriage at risk. So a woman's body count does matter. And what she's trying to say, that your body count does matter. Every body you contract over, in this case over two, your success of marriage starts to go down. And the more bodies you add thereafter, the success of your marriage go down. I don't know what the terminal point is as far as how many bodies you need to have before it kind of falls off the cliff. But I would surmise that probably what's happening is that women with high body counts probably don't get married at all, because the marriage rate has plummeted since 1990. The marriage rate has dropped off a cliff. So I'm surmising that women with over 10 bodies or something like that are not getting married. But that's just an opinion of mine. I have no data to back that up. But as she was saying, that every man you sleep with, you bond to. Not every man you sleep to, but most men you orgasm with, you're going to have some sort of bond to. And that bond gets weakened because of the oxytocin that you produce in your body, which is what they call the love hormone and the bonding hormone. There's about 5 to 10 others that supplement that. But you release these bonding hormones, and as I've been saying, the more guys you sleep with, the more that impacts your ability to bond. And if a virgin that's never had more than one man and it got married, a woman that got married early, really is probably the most successful marriage. I got a best friend now. He got married to his wife, early, when in his 20s. Well, in his 20s, but he started going with her. He started dating her at 16, and she was a virgin. And that was the only man she had ever slept with. Well into their marriage. I think they separated. I think something may have happened. But the thing is, that's the only man she's ever really been with. And they're still married to this day. So they've been married 42 years. And they've been together for, 48. So they've been together almost 50 years. 5 kids, the whole 9 yards, right? She's college educated. He's fairly successful in business. They bought several big houses, all that kind of stuff. But they've been together for a very long time. And so I know just by observation, I've known women that got married as virgins. And most of those marriages, I would say like 90% of the marriages I know where a woman got married to her first guy, the guy in high school, they're still with in their 60s. So that is my aunt. My aunt got married as a virgin, and she was with my uncle until he died. And so there is that. There is very good proof, and there's very good data on why that happened. So it's not just a survey, but the thing is, the survey bears out what the science says. And I've been saying that because a lot of women go around saying that the woman's body count doesn't matter, but it does. And it reflects not only in the quality of the marriage, but also the length of the marriage. Like I said, anything over 2, anything over 3 bodies basically puts you at risk for a high divorce rate within 5 years. And this woman, who's a white woman, bears witness to what I've been saying, that it does affect you. And I've heard other people say, Shay Sharday actually said the same thing about body count in these so-called born-again virgins that are complaining that they kind of used up their bodies in their 20s, and then they try to get married in their 30s, and they're dissatisfied with their husband. The biggest factor in divorce, they talk about money and cheating and all that kind of crap. The biggest factor in divorce is the happiness of the woman. The happy wife, happy life. The woman isn't happy anymore, or she is bored, or whatever it is. That's what leads to divorce. Every woman I've ever talked to that got divorced, they kind of mention cheating as an excuse, but 9 times out of 10, they were bored and they were unhappy in their marriage, and they just needed an excuse to get out. A lot of guys, man, will cheat just to get out of a fucking bad marriage. They will. And I've called guys out on that, because I was asking, okay, why'd you cheat? And after you get divorced, are you still with the woman that you cheated with? And 90% of the time, it's actually just no. But I always give the book of Alchemy of Love and Lust to young girls. I gave it to my daughter, I had her read it. I had a friend's girlfriend's daughter, I had her read it. That's probably why I never get them back, is because you had to protect your womb. Because it will affect how you bond, it will affect how you see your husband, and it will affect how you see your children. And you got to understand that even if you get married and you want to stay married, and you have to understand what's going on with you. When you're not happy, you're not feeling them, or you're not feeling sexual toward them, or you're not feeling close to them, this is the reason why. So you have to override that with logic, because the natural chemicals, the natural bonding process has been interrupted by too many bodies. Most women don't know that. Most women think that they're men. Men do not produce the same amount of oxytocin that women do. And plus, testosterone always overrides oxytocin. Men bond differently than women do. Women bond biologically. Men bond psychologically. There's a difference. There's a difference the way men show up as far as mates. There's a difference where they show up as emotional labor. There's a difference of the way they show up as bonding. And women are not men. Don't let women tell you that your body responds the same as men's does. It does not. Anyhow, that's all I got for this one. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.